can people be positive about this? It's bought by a country that is openly anti-LGBT, enslaves citizens, and is one of the most misogynistic countries on Earth.
What is up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the Chud Champion Dr. Disaster, and when it was announced that EA was going to be bought out by the likes of the Saudis and a firm run by Donald Trump's son-in-law, the meltdown by the shitlibs out there was enough to make me laugh my ass off.
That's how you do an evil laugh.
The immediate assumption was that the Saudis and people like Jared Kushner were not going to let EA keep pushing their progressive crap into their games any longer, and we got gems like this one on social media where the X-account Sims Community melodramatically wrote,
"All those efforts in making The Sims the most inclusive and accepting game are falling into deep waters when your money is now going straight into the pocket of an administration that is publicly flogging, jailing, and prosecuting LGBT people."
And if they're talking about the Saudis, then yeah, they probably have at least a kernel of a point there. But if they're referring to the Trump administration, well...
That's bullshit. Stop lying.
Anyhow, it has been very funny watching these people try to come to terms with the fact that this corporation, EA, which only made games like Dragon Age the Veilguard because they went along with all of the other corporate groupthink, well, they've had to come to terms with the fact that that wasn't going to be permitted any longer. We all know that's the case because we all know what kind of place Saudi Arabia is. These progressives all sing Kumbaya and pretend that every culture is exactly the same, but when push comes to shove, they know the truth, that Saudi Arabia does not share their values. In fact, leftism and Saudi culture are utterly incompatible. These shitlibs are the sort who will push for something like this.
I want to talk to the kids.
And the Saudis will respond with something like,
"How about no?"
And I've got to say, as much as I'm not a fan of Saudi Arabian culture, when it comes to that sort of thing, I'm on their side. Anyhow, news just dropped that the buyout of EA, which it was announced that there were 3 groups buying them out, well, it seems like the initial reporting vastly overstated the involvement of 2 of the 3 investors. The news is that if this deal does go through, which it is fully expected that it will close with no problems, but if it goes through, then actually the Saudis will not own just a third of the company, which was what people were supposing. No, it looks like they will walk away with around 93% of the company, which is essentially the whole damn thing. And naturally, the response to this news was fairly easy to predict. Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet. I've had a lot of people tell me that they've been unwillingly unsubscribed to the channel. Almost every day I hear from somebody new who says they didn't believe me when I talked about this phenomenon, but then they noticed that they themselves were unsubbed from the channel. I don't know why it happens, but I do hear it a lot, so look into that. I will be making this portion of my videos skippable by making it into a chapter on the video timeline, but I do need to keep on saying this because the amount of people telling me it happens to them is unbelievable. But alrighty then, we are going to read this article from PC Gamer where they tell us about how it is really just the Saudis that are buying out EA, which utterly exacerbates all of the fears that Redditors were talking about with regards to the buyout. Keep in mind that while Saudi Arabia is very anti-LGBT, they are going into massive debt in order to buy this company, so they will want to maximize their revenue stream immediately once the company becomes theirs. And when it comes to a game like The Sims, for example, which appeals to a large LGBT crowd, they will likely continue to permit that sort of content in a game like that for the foreseeable future. But when it comes to the likes of Dragon Age or Mass Effect, where sales figures have been obviously hampered by the queer content in the game that was so prevalent in Veilguard, I just don't see any way in hell that a game like Dragon Age the Veilguard gets made by this company again. I don't see any way where they will make a Battlefield 5 again either, where they put female soldiers with bionic arms front and center in a World War II simulator in a franchise that has always been renowned for being fairly realistic. I just don't see the Saudis signing off on that sort of thing unless they're intentionally trying to poison the minds of Westerners, which I suppose that's a possibility. But anyhow, let's read this article from PC Gamer, which I will link in the description, and then we will look at some of the responses to this. It says here, when EA announced in October that it will go private via a $55 billion leveraged buyout, a consortium of 3 investment firms were listed as buyers: Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, Jared Kushner's Affinity Partners, and Silver Lake. A breakdown of the ownership between these parties wasn't given at the time, but as it turns out, one is committing significantly more cash than the others. According to the Wall Street Journal, the PIF will own 93.4% of EA, a gargantuan amount that renders the other stakeholders insignificant by comparison. Silver Lake and Affinity Partners are set to own 5.5% and 1.1%, both of whom PIF is also a significant investor in. In other words, if the buyout passes regulatory and shareholder approvals, the PIF will effectively own EA, and a part of me can't look at that breakdown and help but think that it is likely that the only reason the Saudi Arabians would even include Affinity Partners in the arrangement is because it is run by Donald Trump's son-in-law, and they expect that they will get favorable treatment from the US and have an easier time getting the deal approved by having him involved. Because let's be real here, while approximately 1% of $55 billion is not an insignificant sum, the Saudi Arabians could have likely easily borrowed the roughly $500 million extra dollars and just kept Affinity Partners out of it. The way that this is structured sure makes it seem like the Saudis likely reached out to them and made them an offer just to get them attached. Anyhow, the article says here then, PIF's huge majority may not come as a surprise to everyone. The fund is famously trigger-happy when it comes to buying stakes in the games industry, with tentacles in Take-Two, Capcom, Nexon, and Nintendo, among others, but with such a large stake, it seems increasingly unlikely that, as EA CEO Andrew Wilson said in October, the values and our commitment to players and fans around the world remain unchanged. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that it is impossible that their values will stay the same, because as I said before, the values of the corporate West run by the progressive hive mind are utterly incompatible with Saudi Arabian culture. So there is a very real chance that the games made by EA after they are bought out will be terrible, just like Dragon Age the Veilguard, but for different reasons. That being said though, as someone who is already disgusted by a good chunk of what EA does these days, this doesn't bother me at all. What are they going to do? Ruin Dragon Age even harder? Who gives a shit? But for the woke crowd out there, they really don't like this. Here are a couple of the responses to this article, which I found extremely humorous. This person here wrote,
"Welp, won't be playing anything from EA ever again. Rest in peace, Mass Effect 5.
And then this guy said,
Haven't bought an EA game since the Dead Space remake, which was admittedly very good, but I guess now I won't ever be buying a game from them again."
And now, with all of this in mind, I do have a bit of a soft prediction as to what is going to happen with EA once the buyout for the company ends up going through. I could end up being way off on this, but the more I look at it, the more this idea pops into my head. The thing is, everyone is pointing out that the people buying EA have little experience actually making video games, and they are clearly going to be pushing to make a profit, big profit, right away. So I actually expect that EA will end up selling off pretty much all of their studios, except for all of the EA sports game studios. You have to think, Saudi Arabia has tried really hard to get involved with the sports industry, starting up their own golf league to compete with the PGA, for example. The EA sports division is easily the most valuable part of the company at EA, and for the Saudis who want to break into that biz, I suspect that they will want to sell off studios like BioWare and recoup their $20 billion to repay their loans ASAP, and then they will just produce all the Madden games and all of the other sports games and watch the massive profits from those fill their coffers as they become more inundated in the sporting world. If this does end up being the case, then all of this whining and gnashing of teeth from the progressives will have been for nothing, most likely, as the companies who do end up buying these studios will likely be the sort who think that Dragon Age the Veilguard was a masterpiece worth replicating. But who knows, I guess. In the meantime, it is funny to watch them squirm. But I'm gonna leave it there. The Saudis are basically the sole future owners of EA, and the woke crowd doesn't like it. What do you make of all this? What do you think is gonna happen? Drop your thoughts into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching me, Hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.